Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A few days ago, the world passed 400 million parts per million level of carbon, higher than anything we've seen in the atmosphere for over 3 million years. This puts in stark focus on the climate crisis and the indifference we're seeing from congressional leadership on this problem. In the last 24 hours, there was all you needed to know about the state of play for climate science and dealing with global warming in 2 articles in the newspaper. Yesterday, the business section of the New York Times by Eduardo Porter discussed how the reinsurance industry is entirely comfortable with the climate science, predicting more rapid extreme weather events and dire consequences. They in the insurance industry, after all, don't have the luxury of debating science when they must deal with facts on the ground. This is a dollar and cents for a vast industry trying to help people cope with the consequences of natural disaster. As a result of the market discipline, they've had to embrace reality, accept it, and plan for it. It was poignant that Porter observed and probed their lack of engagement in government policies, at least in the United States, that would help minimize future damage. Remember, this is even as the scientists told us, we've had the highest concentration of carbon for 3 million years. In today's Washington Post, there is a front-page story about fish populations that aren't waiting for their habitat to make it impossible for them to live. Species all over the globe are moving. They're migrating to cooler climates. In a process that's been taking place for decades now, fish are sorting themselves out and leaving areas that no longer sustain their quality of life, their ability to reproduce and to thrive. They have steadily been moving to areas where the effects of climate change are not so pronounced. Isn't it interesting that fish, without fancy scientific instrumentation or computer analysis, or dare I say it, political focus groups, have reacted to facts in the sea and moved to where they can function, where they can live, where they can escape, for the time being at least, the impact of climate change. They're also escaping from the people who depend on these fish for their living in the previous habitat. But that's another story about the devastation that local communities are facing because of the climate change consequences. Isn't it time that the political process starts responding to a problem that even fish can figure out? What is it going to take for people in this body to wake up to their responsibilities and act with the same insight as aquatic species that don't have graduate degrees in computers, but mercifully for them, don't have political blinders and ideological fervor, wasting huge amounts of time on pointless activities like debating whether to repeal Obamacare for the 37th time. Hopefully, insurance companies and people who depend on these aquatic creatures will lend an air of reality to the discussion of climate change that is almost non-existent here on Capitol Hill. Maybe reaching the point where it's no longer a debate because it's really past time for a debate. It's time for us to take action like our friends in the ocean. If Charlie the tuna can figure it out, why can't the Republican leadership in Congress? Let's maybe spend a little time debating with the Safe Climate Caucus this existential crisis of climate change and global warming.
Gentleman yields back. The chair